What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for MLB Tuesday, June 8th.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon.
so you don't miss our new videos.
In this video, I'm going to go over my top DFS picks for today's MLB slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, we have a 15-game slate tonight, so let's take a look at the pitcher position. I'm going to pay up for pitcher here tonight. I like Shane Bieber with a small pitching advantage over the St. Louis Cardinals. Shane Bieber is giving up a .591 OPS versus righties, and he's facing 7 righties here tonight. Now, the Cardinals have hit 1 of 3, too small of a sample size to get any read on that, but Shane Bieber is $11,500 FanDuel salary, and he's $1,200 less on DraftKings. Projected at 32.6 fantasy points here tonight. He has an ERA of 3.08. His record is 6-3 on the season. And the reason I like this pick is because he's pitching an average of 106 pitches per game. So that gives him a lot of opportunities to rack up fantasy points. And he's averaging 49 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 46, 64, and 25 fantasy points in the last 3 games. And Vegas thinks this is going to be a low-scoring game. 7.5 runs scored in this game. That's their over-under. So I like Shane Bieber here versus the St. Louis Cardinals. Now I also like Walker Buehler pitching against a low-salary batting team, the Pittsburgh Pirates. Walker Buehler, he's giving up a .687 OPS versus lefties and a .607 OPS versus righties, facing 4 lefties and 4 righties. And the Pirates have hit 3 of 12. Again, small sample size. So Walker Buehler is $10,800 FanDuel salary, and he's $1,000 less on DraftKings. Projected at 26.4 fantasy points here tonight. He has an ERA of 2.82. Record is 4-0 on the season, pitching an average of 96 pitches per game, averaging 38 fantasy points per game. He scored 43, 28, and 43 fantasy points in the last 3 games. And again, Vegas thinks this is going to be a low-scoring game. 7.5 runs scored in this game. That's their over-under. So I also like Walker Buehler here versus the Pittsburgh Pirates. Okay, let's take a look at the catcher first base position. I like Eric Haas with a 60% batting advantage over Marco Gonzalez. Eric Haas, he's batting 29% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a .953 OPS versus lefties. And Marco Gonzalez throws his worst ball versus righty batters, 31% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .819 OPS versus righties. There's no at-bats versus Gonzalez yet, and Eric Haas is $3,000 FanDuel salary and $900 more on DraftKings. Projected at 9.3 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 12 fantasy points per game on the season. He's been on fire, scoring 6, 41, and 28 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Eric Haas here versus Marco Gonzalez. Okay, let's take a look at the second base position. I like Jean Segura with an 18% batting advantage over a low-salary pitcher, Drew Smyly. Jean Segura is batting 5% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a .818 OPS versus lefties, and Drew Smyly throws 13% worse to righties as he does lefties, giving up a .744 OPS versus righties. Jean Segura is 1-for-1 with a 1.5 OPS versus Smiley, and he's 3,300 FanDuel salary and just 700 more on DraftKings. He's projected at 10.3 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 9, 12, and 18 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Jean Segura here versus Drew Smiley.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on.
Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. Okay, let's take a look at the third base position. I got a value play for you. I like Jonathan India, batting against Adrian Hauser. Jonathan India bats 14% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .813 OPS versus righties. Now, Adrian Hauser does throw his best ball versus righty batters, giving up a .650 OPS versus righties. And India is 0-for-1 versus Hauser, but he's only 2,400 FanDuel salary. He's 1,100 more on DraftKings, projected at 9.2 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season. And the reason that I like this value play is because he's been on fire, scoring 12, 28, and 34 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Jonathan India here versus Adrian Hauser. And another interesting value play, looks like he's a little bit cheaper on DraftKings, is Alec Baum with a 26% batting advantage over that low salary pitcher, Drew Smiley. Alec Baum is batting 13% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a .789 OPS versus lefties. And Drew Smiley, we know he throws 13% worse to righties as he does lefties, giving up a .744 OPS versus righties. And Alec Baum is 1-for-2 with a 1 OPS versus Smiley. He's only 2,400 FanDuel salary, and he's only 600 more on DraftKings. Projected at 9.5 fantasy points here tonight. Now, he's only averaging 7 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 10, 0, and 3 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I think I prefer Jonathan India on FanDuel, but I might prefer Alec Baum on DraftKings. So I like Alec Baum here versus Drew Smiley. Okay, let's take a look at the shortstop position. I like Tim Anderson with a 70% batting advantage over Robbie Ray. Tim Anderson is batting 34% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a 1.118 OPS versus lefties. And Robbie Ray throws his worst ball by far to righty batters, 35% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .941 OPS versus righties. There's no at-bats versus Ray yet, and Tim Anderson is 3,800 FanDuel salary, and he's 1,300 more on DraftKings. Projected at 10.9 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 13, 12, and 13 fantasy points in his last 3 games. So I like Tim Anderson here versus Robbie Ray. Okay, moving on to the outfield position. I got a few picks for you here at the outfield position. Let's just start with Starling Marte, batting against a low salary pitcher, Antonio Senzatella. Starling Marte is batting a .836 OPS versus righties, and Antonio Senzatella is giving up a .753 OPS versus righties. But the reason that I like this pick is because Starling Marte is 5 for 8, batting a .625 batting average and a 1.792 OPS versus Senzatella. He's $3,600 FanDuel salary. He's $1,300 more on DraftKings, projected at 13.2 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 14 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 34, 9, and 3 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Starling Marte here versus Antonio Senzatella. Okay, another outfielder that I like is Trey Mancini. Well, he's eligible at the outfield position here, and he has a 39% batting advantage over David Peterson. Trey Mancini is batting 28% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a 1.030 OPS versus lefties, and David Peterson throws his worst ball versus righty batters, 11% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .758 OPS versus righties. There's no at-bats versus Peterson yet, but Trey Mancini is only $3,200 FanDuel salary, although he is $2,200 more on DraftKings, so I love that FanDuel price, and he's projected at 11.1 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 6, 3, and 3 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Trey Mancini here versus David Peterson. And is that it? Is that it? Oh no, I wanted to give you this pick, although he is expensive and he's coming off of a monster game last game. He's in a great spot here tonight. So I like Jesse Winker with a 54% batting advantage over Adrian Hauser. Jesse Winker is batting 27% better versus righty pitchers, batting a 1.051 OPS versus righties, and Adrian Hauser throws his worst ball versus lefty batters, giving up a .889 OPS versus lefties. Then I like this pick because Jesse Winker is 8 for 13, batting a .615 batting average with a 2.384 OPS versus Hauser. And check this out, 5 of those 8 hits are for home runs. So Jesse Winker absolutely crushes Adrian Hauser. He is $4,400 FanDuel salary. He's only $200 more on DraftKings, projected at 11.3 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 15 fantasy points per game on the season, and he scored 70, 9, and 6 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So just coming off of a monster game last game, could be a letdown, but he's in such a great spot here tonight. So I like Jesse Winker here versus Adrian Hauser.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.